morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Awesome.
I want to share with you real quick. You guys all have a good Thanksgiving? Yes?
Yes.
Really good?
Yes.
Who's saying that?
Yes.
How was the food on a scale of 1 to 10?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. How was the company on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, 11.
Okay, some of you didn't really answer that one. Just so you know. Wayne Dyer used to say, God gives you your friends to sort of make up for your family. Right? If you can choose your friends with your family, you just sort of God, right? Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not necessarily the ideal thing, right?
Right.
I'm going to talk a little bit about that this morning, but it's exciting. How many of you went out Black Friday shopping by show of hands? Me and Harold, the only two. Actually, my wife and her sisters have always gone out Black Friday shopping, like for years. At Thanksgiving, they get out all the newspapers together after we're done eating, and it's literally like generals of war, right? And they're plotting. You go here, you go. Okay, I'll go there. Get 3 of them to cover you guys. You guys go there. We'll meet here. At this time, it's like they could like. Syria, ISIS, Afghanistan, like, they're unbelievable, right? If there was sales and coupons involved in those countries, they could take care of all of those conflicts, I'm completely confident. So they've always done that. My daughter years ago, Lexi, who's 16 now, years ago, got to an age where she's a giver, so she wanted to go out and take advantage of the sales and do the shopping just like her mom and her aunties and all that sort of stuff. But the trouble was she couldn't do it with mom, because mom's shopping for Lexi and her brothers, right? So it's not like she could take her, because that would sort of spoil things for my, and even if my wife only shopped for my sons, and it's like, well, I know that didn't come from Santa Claus because I was with Mom on Black Friday when you bought it, right? So, all right, so I made a decision here. I said, I'll take you out, Lexi. And so every year for years, that's been sort of one of our like daddy-daughter traditions, that I'll take her and 1 or 2 or 3 of her friends out Black Friday shopping as early as they want to get started and as late as they want to go. We always sort of start with a enormous Starbucks order, right, somewhere, once I get all the girls picked up. Then we hit the Chino Hill stores. We always wind up sort of down at Irvine Spectrum. And then we always have like a big lunch at some point to sort of celebrate, kick off the holidays, right, celebrate the day and all the deals and such. So we had a great lunch yesterday at Javier's down there at Irvine Spectrum, which is just like my daughter was just sort of I was actually I had a little bit of a faux pas because I always make it not about me. I always try to make it about them. But Turner's, which is a hunting and fishing retail store, had some really good deals yesterday morning. So I dropped off my daughter and her friend at the shops, thinking that'll occupy them for a while before we usually go from there to like over to Ulta, Best Buy, and those sort of places. And I'm going to duck over to Turner's because my brother-in-law had like an extra line number. He was 92, he had 94 somehow he secured for me, and he had an extra coupon for something I wanted to purchase. And it just took longer than expected, and they finished the shop sooner than expected, so they were sort of left hanging there. So I'm going to drive down the Spectrum. She's like, Dad, you know what would be amazing? I go, what's with you? She's like, you know what my favorite restaurant is? I'm like, I do. And then her friend is like, oh, it's my favorite too. No way. I'm like, okay. So it's not going to be like a Wood Ranch Cheesecake Factory tender greens this year. It's going to be Javier's. So we did a nice lunch at Javier's. And, it's fantastic. It's fabulous. But it was just sort of fun to kick off sort of the holidays that way. But something interesting that I noted, because I've been doing this for years, going out on Black Friday shopping. By the way, we didn't get back till 5:30 yesterday evening, so that was a long. I told her, like, I'm going to make up for my faux pas at Turner's by taking you wherever you want for lunch, and I'll stay out as long as you want, no limits. So we didn't get home till 5:30 yesterday, which was pretty insane. And as soon as I got home, right, Errol was there waiting on me. I dropped off my daughter, picked up my boys, because they wanted to go to Turner's to see a bunch of stuff on sale. So it was sort of a long day, but here's what was fascinating to me. So there's a spot at Irvine Spectrum that's got a 4-story big garage. There's all kinds of parking lots everywhere. But I always go there, and I always go to the top, and that's where I always park, right next to the, sort of the door and elevator on the top. I pull into that garage. You know how they have these light systems, like, you know how many spots in there? Every floor. Full, 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 full. Every single floor. I'm like, maybe I'll find somebody opening one up. I go in there, and I'm literally stuck on the up ramp for like 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because there's all these people looking for spots in a place that's already completely full. So I Huey out of there, hit another lot, like every row full. Another lot, every row complete. Hit my fourth lot, and I'm about to pull in, and this lady walks out in a store right in front of me, and she has a very first parking spot there. So I sort of but like, it was the busiest I've seen in years. Like what I've personally noticed is the past few years is Black Friday crowds have been dwindling. I think partially because of the pre-sales that take place now. You don't have to wait till Black Friday to get them. And then partially because of all the online shopping. I think partially because of the economy. It was insane yesterday. It wasn't just that parking lot. It was like the lines at Turner's and the lines at the store. Like, you know, professional line waiting is now a thing. $35 an hour. You wait in line for people whose time is valuable, right? Yes.
Wow.
Yes. William's like, oh, I'm going to change careers. That's a good rate.
Standing in line, man.
Yeah. So that's what I was yesterday, but instead of me earning $35 an hour, I felt like the longer I stood in line, the more stuff she was going to buy. So it was actually costing me factors of that. But it was crazy. It was crazy. And I think part of that is because online shopping is bigger than ever.
Right.
Sales started earlier. I think a big part of that is the economy. Really, the economy is so good right now. I just read something this morning that suggested this, and it was fascinating to me. There's actually a liberal media outlet that wrote this, which it was even more surprising to me. But, you know, this October, that even after the tax cuts that we just had that was going to create all these deficits and create all these problems in the country, we had record tax revenues in the month of October. Like $100 billion more than last year in October. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so, even though all of these people got these tax cuts, our tax revenues were up. Why? Because the economy is up, more people are making more money, more people are working, wages are up. And then here's the other thing that was really, really fascinating, was the percentage of those revenues that came from individuals was way down from last year, but the overall tax revenues were up because more of that revenue came from companies.
Right.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
More of it came from companies. So I just say, like, that was my experience yesterday being out. Like, people were shopping, people were spending money, people were. My daughter, the majority of this. Here's the funniest thing: the majority of the stuff she bought yesterday was at Brandy Melville. Dean, I'm sure you're pretty familiar with that place.
Brandy's good.
Yeah. She didn't buy one thing on sale there. The longest line I stood in for her, Turner's was longer, but the longest line I stood in for her was at Brandy Melville. She bought like 5 things. If you got daughters that are sort of into like, you know, expensive, fashionable stuff. Not one of the 5 things she bought was on sale, and her friend bought 2 or 3 things. Not one of those things were on sale. And I was in a long line for stuff that wasn't on sale. How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
Wow.
So that's good. I'll tell you this. The good thing about WFG, and I've seen this throughout my career, like here's the really amazing thing about WFG. I started in February of '99 part-time. I went full-time that year in '99, and what happened February of 2000? Yeah, the Y2K tech stock crash for 2 years. And I've often thought to myself, how many guys or gals started in the industry a year before that and survived 2 years of devastation? Because when I started, it was easy. It's like, well, you want this mutual fund that went up by 138% last year, or should we balance it out with this one that only did 78% positive returns last year? Like literally everything, it's not even exaggeration.
Yep.
That was Van Camp and Emerging Markets, and that was Janus Growth, 2 of the funds that I remember like that, right? It was just pick your diversification of funds over 50%, right? And then the market crashed and crashed really, really bad. And then market slowly grew, and then we had the whole correction of 2008, which was not just the stock market, but it was the housing market, it was the credit market, like it was just and then the market's gone up again since then, and now sort of here we are. Here's the fascinating thing to me though. Through these market corrections, through the housing crisis, through the Great Recession, or what did we call it?
Yeah.
The Great Recession.
Yeah.
It wasn't Great Depression, but the Great Recession, which was economically like devastated almost everybody we know, right? Through Republican administration and Bush, through a Democratic administration in Obama, through an orange administration in Trump, like right? All these different things, right? We've been at war as a country during these times, right? That every single month, every single quarter, every single year, you see men and women inside of WFG making an aggressive vertical move. Economy's crashing in 2008. There was guys and gals making an aggressive vertical move. Their income's doubling year over year. The recruiting numbers grow. So the thing that's always amazed me is all you have to do is look, and you're going to find lots of people winning in our company, and it's not dependent on the economy. It's not dependent on the government. It's not dependent on what's going on in the stock market. It's not dependent on tax. It's not dependent on any of those things. You can always find a bunch of people winning in WFG. So here's what that tells me. When Gracie and I had a great conversation about this stuff the other day, here's what it tells me. It doesn't depend on what's going on outside of you. For you to win here, it all depends on what's going on inside of you. It's not the things that are outside of our control that are going to cause or dictate our success or make it more difficult for us. It's the things going on inside of us that are going to dictate our success or lack of it. And so the good news is we can control the things going on here. We can control the choices we make and how we go about doing things, how we go about viewing things. One of the things I was sharing with Gracie this week, we had a little coaching session this week, was I sat in an office. There's not even an office comparable to it here. I had, my first office was, well, first I shared a cube with Dan Charlier when I first got started. Me and him shared a cubicle, if you can imagine that, right? Just to sort of put things in perspective, we shared a cube because neither one of us could afford a cube on our own. So some of you guys think like we were always successful here, we were always making money, it was always easy for us. We were sharing a cube, right? Then I was sharing this tiny little office that we had these tiny little cheap $109 Office Depot desks made out of particle board. And with two of these desks in the office, like there's no room for these beautiful credenzas or bookshelves or none of that stuff. It was like it was tiny. It should have been a one-person office. And we were paying some obnoxious, I think we were paying $1,300 a month for this tiny, tiny little office. And I was in there working with the guy who was my first, when I first got promoted into sales management at AT&T, he's the guy that promoted me. Eric Davis. He was my manager. He was my director back at AT&T. And so he decided to come into business with me and went full-time. We would sit in this little office, and he would look all out, and what he kept fixating on was everything that was going wrong. Nobody here is making money, right? It's like every month we recruit all these people, and a whole bunch of people quit, and people don't come back to the meetings, and nobody here is really making any money, and look at how long so-and-so or so-and-so or so-and-so has been here, and they're still struggling, they're still not making it. That's like all he would see. And I would sit in the same little office, I go, that Charlie A guy's making money, that Dr. Q guy's making money, I know Milette's making money, Steve Haig's only like 20-something or other, and he's making money, Louise Haig's making money, again, that Guillermo Haro guy's making money, I know he, like, all I would see is the people that were doing well. Now, there wasn't as many people doing well as there were people, right, struggling and quitting. There's way more of those, but I made a decision to focus on the people that were winning. Because I was going to be one of them, not one of the people that was struggling. And so, my point is this, what I could control is the way that I perceived things and how it created beliefs inside me. Do we not have a flip chart today? Do you know what happened to it?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And could you get my markers out of my office too, my drawer, Louis, my desk drawer? I focused on controlling the way that I looked at things. And he just said, you know how they say the glass is half full, the glass is half empty?
Right.
Yeah. I chose to look for half full things to build my beliefs that this was going to work for me. Like when guys would quit, in my mind I was one step closer to winning.
Right.
In his mind it was more evidence that people failed here more than they succeeded. In my mind it's like they quit, I didn't, I'm one step closer because I'm mentally tougher than them. It's like this morning, we're not at full occupancy this morning. True or not true?
True.
Right? So some people are like, oh, nobody's here. Some people are like, I could have blown off this morning. Nobody really noticed. A whole bunch of other people didn't show up this morning. I could have started doing them. I could have, right? but you're here. Like, instead of telling myself I could have missed this morning, what I was always telling myself in the morning like this is like, I'm hungrier than them, I want it more than them, I'm willing to work harder than them, I'm gonna get something this morning that they're never gonna get, right? And so I would keep using like every little thing I could to beat myself. Yes, that's what I'm gonna win. If I'm sitting here in a meeting and somebody else gets up to go take a potty break, I'm like, they don't want it as bad as me. I got them. I'm hungry. They're worried about convenience. I'm worried about winning. And so I would constantly do these things to build my beliefs. I'm going to get to my talk because I've got plenty to talk about this morning. But I'm not going to keep you late because I've got other commitments. Thank you, Louis. Give it up for Louis.
All right, Louis.
So I've shared this before, but before I get into my actual talk, this is a good reminder, and this will bleed into my talk. Tony Robbins used this reference before that I absolutely love of our beliefs, and he said our beliefs are like a tabletop. So imagine that this is the top of a table. Here's the weird thing, and this is going to totally play into the article I put out what I want to talk about this morning. Here's the weird thing. Most of us believe that our beliefs, I want you to listen to me on this, most of us believe that our beliefs are based on the truth or based on facts. And that is not accurate. We believe, I believe this because I know it's true. Is it possible somebody believes the exact opposite?
Yes.
What are their beliefs based on? What they believe is true. How could two opposing things both be the truth? They couldn't, could they? Our beliefs are not based on the truth, and they're not based on the facts. And now, sometimes our beliefs there happen to be some truths or some facts lined up with our beliefs, but it doesn't mean, we have all of these beliefs. Here's where our beliefs come from. Our parents, our friends and colleagues, right? Our associations, that's why we're so concerned about who our kids hang out with as they get older, right? Our teachers, our religious leaders, whether it's a pastor or a priest or a bishop or whatever you want, an elder, whatever you want to call them, these people influence our beliefs, right? Our coaches, if we're involved in any kind of sports, our mentors, the people that we work with day in, day out, and that we've worked with over the years, we don't think of them as really influencing our beliefs. Of course they do, because of that power of association. What we read, right? What we listen to, what we watch on television, what we sort of watch on social media, all of these things are inputs for us. So, and they create this collection of beliefs. Now here's what happens most of the time. Most of the time we're not very conscious about these things. We have beliefs, but we're not conscious about, are they true or not? And here's what I want you to consider. Are my beliefs, I'm going to use an equal sign. There's probably mathematically a better sign to use, but I'm going to use equals. Are my beliefs congruent with or aligned with my goals? So are my beliefs congruent? Does everybody know what congruent means?
Yes.
Yep. That was convincing. Or aligned with my goals? And I would suggest asking myself, which beliefs do I have are not congruent with, not aligned with my goals? Can I give you some examples of what beliefs you might have that are not congruent with your goals? Yes or no?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Because if I ask you to give feedback and you say yes, then you're sort of expected to receive the feedback. Okay? Not necessarily just to agree with everything I say, but to at least receive it. Okay? Here's some beliefs you might have that might not be congruent with your goals. Perhaps. For some of you. One or two of you. I'm not good at recruiting. Is it possible that you would have a belief that I'm not good at recruiting? Yes or no?
Yes.
I've never done that before. It's weird. I've never had to do it before. I've never been in a job where you had to recruit. I think recruiting's sort of weird. All versions of that salad, right? Is that consistent with you building a big business here with lots and lots of teammates, lots and lots of agents, lots of residual passive income? So is it possible that belief system is not congruent with your goals?
Yes.
Yes, right? I'm not good at prospecting. Is that possible that it's not consistent with what you want to achieve here? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
I'm not good at sales. Is it possible that's not congruent with your goals? Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't know anyone, or don't have a big market, or fill in the blank. Is it possible that you could have beliefs about your market, your credibility in your market, your market's level of interest in what we do, your market's level of needs for what we do? Is it possible that you have beliefs about their needs or interests in what we do that are not congruent with you helping and serving them with your business? Yes or no?
Yes.
Are you starting to see how these belief things could sort of play a role?
Yes.
Right? I'm not a people person. I'm not good at the products or the concepts. I'm not good at the scripts. So, what Robin suggested here is that a belief that we hold to be true, we have what he called references that support the belief, like the legs to a table. And so here's what, let's say I'm not good at recruiting. So what are the references that support that? Well, I invited a friend and she said she wasn't interested. I invited another friend and he said he would come down and he didn't show. I invited another friend and she came down and then she said she was going to come back for an interview and she didn't come back for the interview and I couldn't get her to respond to my texts to reschedule. I set an appointment with a friend and they seemed really, really interested and then they started and then they quit. Okay, so I have 1 reference, 2 reference, 3 references, 4 reference. Now what I do is I go, I'm not good at recruiting. Or I create some belief about my market, or inviting, or recruiting, or what they say in the BPM, and I've got proof, I've got facts, this is the truth. How do I know it's the truth? Because look at all these examples. It's 4 freaking examples! Are you out of your mind? It's 4 examples! But literally, you've created a belief based on these 4 examples, and that's not an exaggeration. Why is it not an exaggeration? If you've studied or read or understand how the human brain works, it takes tremendous energy. Thank you, Dean. It takes tremendous energy to operate this supercomputer. A lot of energy. Mm-hmm. So part of what the brain does at a subconscious level that you're not aware of, it's constantly looking for shortcuts. Shortcuts. Because shortcuts, when we have things that are just automatic, reflexive, reactive, they call it the crocodile brain, this part of your brain right back here. It's really, really small, fight or flight. I respond to something, I either fight or I run, right? It's primal. There's no processing really, it's instantaneous. This is the same place, like habits, right? So anytime that we can go, like a habit, does it take a lot of work or effort on your part to follow through on a habit that you have? No. Do any of you struggle with brushing your teeth in the morning?
No.
God bless you. No, you just do it, right? Because it's just like habit, right? God bless you. So habits are shortcuts, which is the why that they work so well for us. What our minds want to do is it wants to find things that, this is like that. This is similar to this other experience I've had. Now I don't have to look at, consume, process, and analyze a whole lot of data because this is just like that. So I've got 4 references now, and now I've got a belief, but the question is, does the belief serve you?
No.
How many of you have at least one of these is probably present in your noggin right now by show of hands? Say aye. Okay. So what do? I can't help it. I love this one. I can't help it. It's just who I am. It's just who I am. It's just who I am. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. What are you, a freaking tree? Of course you can change, right? But you've got to be conscious of what's wrong with this program and how do I change the program. Right. My children, I'm constantly trying to change and alter and modify their programming of their computer. I'm constantly trying to modify what their beliefs are, what their value system is, what their sense of morality is, what their sense of opportunity and risk assessment is, how they view the world, how they view people who are different from them. I'm constantly trying to reprogram them in a way that I think will benefit them and is consistent with whose beliefs?
Yours.
Mine. Just like your teachers did to you, and your coaches, and your parents did to you, and your siblings, and the people you work with, and your friends and family, and the media. We're all trying to reprogram each other to our perspective because we believe our perspective is based on facts and the truth, and it's just based on whatever. So the question is if I'm aware, because awareness is the first step to what? Change. Awareness is the first step to what? Change. So I have to be aware first. If I'm aware that I have beliefs that are inconsistent with my goals, here's the kicker you need to realize. Doesn't matter how bad I want the goal or how bad my family needs the goal, if my beliefs aren't congruent with, my beliefs for achieving it aren't congruent with me achieving it. No. I can want it till I'm blue in the face, but if I don't believe I can be good at it, if I don't believe that I have the skills or the ability or the resources, or if I believe it's like doing it is going to be in some way incongruent with who I am, my morals, my integrity, my values, it doesn't matter how bad I want or need the goal. Follow me?
Yep.
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
So, what do I need to do? I need to first be aware of which beliefs specifically. The first thing I would do is write down if any of those or anything similar to that is a belief that you have. Write it down. When you write it down and you see it in your handwriting, in words, you have power over it. Because now it becomes something inside of me that I can change, not something outside of me that's fixated, right? Have any of you ever had a strong belief about something religiously, politically, intellectually, something a really, really strong belief about, that today you believe almost the exact opposite of, or don't believe that thing to be true at all?
Yes.
So, which trip are you right now, or were you right then?
Yes. Now.
Really? Because like you were certain you were right then, and then something over time has changed you to where now you believe you're right now and you were wrong then, right? Is it possible you could move again from this belief?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We don't want to acknowledge that because that's sort of like we desperately want to hang on to things that we believe to be true, right? So, what do I need to do? Really, in my mind, simple process. I need to first be aware of, I need to pick out one of these, be aware of it, and go, okay, I'm going to attack this book. And I've used this example before, and I apologize if you've heard it before, but I think it's relevant, and I think it works. My wife and I love to watch Dateline 48 Hours in 2020. Why? Because they're mystery shows about one spouse killing the other. It just gives us lots of creative ideas. Like, literally, if we're watching something together in bed, it's one of those three shows almost like 99% of the time, right? Yes?
Did I sell you a large life insurance?
Yeah, thankfully I have some. More than one. But here's what these shows always set you up. In other words, here we were watching one last night. She fell asleep in the first one. I turned on the second one because the second one we were gonna watch. She's like, "No, that's a repeat. We've seen that before." I'm like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Yeah." So I didn't remember it as well, so I started watching the second one after she fell asleep. But here they always set you up, and here's the way they set you up, which is good programming to keep your attention. They start showing you one perspective, typically the police's perspective, and then the prosecuting attorney's perspective. She's guilty, here's why she's guilty, alibi is shaky, what about this, what about that, did you read this in her text, what about the cell phone towers? Like, all of this evidence points to Michelle as guilty, right? And you're following, you're like, yeah, I don't like her, I don't like those kind of people, she's guilty, they ought to send her to jail forever, all this sort of stuff. Because the police and the investigators, detectives, and the prosecuting attorneys are building this case, and that's what the producer of the show is sharing, or the director of the show is sharing with you. But at some point, it begins to go to court, or before it goes to court, the defense team shows him, goes, could have been Michelle, here's why. What about this? What about that? Well, you may not agree with this, but doesn't this at least create some reasonable doubt? Yes or no? And you start listening to the defense team, you're like, crap, I think it was Kimberly. It couldn't have been Michelle. I thought Kimberly was one of the good guys, but it couldn't have, I don't think it could have been Michelle. It's more likely it was Kimberly than Michelle. We should put her in that jail cell, right? All of a sudden, once you start hearing enough of the defense, you start going the other direction. How many of you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Here's the challenge. These references that you have that support this belief of yours that's not congruent with your goals, you never question them. Matter of fact, you do everything you can to defend these references and support them. No, I know I'm not good at recruiting because she didn't come. I know I'm not good at recruiting because she came and then she never came back for the interview, didn't respond to my texts. No, I know I'm not good at recruiting because she joined and she was really excited and a week later she quit, so it doesn't work. Or I'm not good at training somebody, or my market isn't really interested. She was just doing it right. And so we defend these experiences, these references, whatever they are, as opposed to challenging them. We're always sort of the prosecuting attorney laying out these as facts that prove that our weak beliefs, our limiting beliefs that don't support our goals are the right ones, and it's not our fault. It's not my fault I can't recruit people. It's not my fault I'm a bad prospector. It's not my fault my market's not interested or I don't have credibility. But if we allow ourselves to accept the fact that our beliefs are our responsibility and we can change our beliefs, then what we have to do is we have to become like a good defense attorney and really question each one of these. Okay, so I invited somebody to come down and they said they weren't interested. Is that true all of the time, or was it just true in those couple of instances? Can I create reasonable doubt? Well, it's not true all of the time. Is it true with everybody in the office? Every time they invite somebody, they never come down? Is that true? No, that's not true. Well, somebody came down and said they were going to interview, and then they didn't show up for the interview. Does that always happen 100% of the time, or is that only some of the time?
Some of the time.
Somebody joins the business and they quit real shortly. Does that always happen, or do some of the people stay? Do we have some people right here in the office that have stayed for more than a month, or a year, or 5 years, or 10 years, or 15 years? Okay, so maybe that's not true all of the time. And we have to, here's what I think is important. I think you have to write out what are these beliefs that I am aware of. And then underneath the belief, I would encourage you to do this. Just start writing out, bullet point after bullet point, what are the reasons I believe this? And if you ask yourself, why do I believe I'm not good at recruiting? And just allow yourself to just sort of brainstorm and come up with whatever comes to your mind. Just write it down. Don't judge the thoughts. Just whatever comes to your mind. I'm not good at recruiting. I'm not good at prospecting. I'm not good at selling. Whatever it is, just start writing down whatever comes to mind underneath bullet points. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Then once you have these bullet points down, these are the references. And then with each one of these bullet points, just be a good defense attorney. Say, well, is that true all of the time? Is that true 100% of the time? Is that true for everybody? Could that be a factor of me being new, or that I need to work on this skill or work on that? Or is it just absolutely true about me or my market or my personality or the way God made me? Is it 100% true, or is it possible this is just a small sample size and I just haven't tried it enough times, or I haven't talked to enough people, I haven't worked hard enough at this skill? And as you ask those kinds of questions of each one of these, you know what you'll do? Here's what you do. Watch this. Each one of these legs that's supporting a limiting belief, you begin to destroy and take away the reference point or the leg. Now all of a sudden this belief that I'm not good at recruiting, not good at prospecting, not good at what is up for grabs. You know, it's the next step that I've never taught before, because I've never had a group that was interested in learning or doing it as much as this group. You know what the next step would be?
What?
Replacing them with beliefs that actually help you.
You are like Tony Robbins Jr. You're like Tony Robbins mini-me. Exactly. So what new reference could I come up with? So how do I change this belief? In other words, you've got to make it the opposite, right? I go from I'm not a good recruiter to what? I'm a great recruiter. Or it may be that yours might not be about whether I'm good or bad at it. Yours might be I don't like recruiting. And so you change it to I love recruiting, which sounds weird at first if you hate recruiting. But then what you do is exactly what Michelle said. Would you stop that? I'm trying to train. Goodness. How do you like if I sit in church and I'm just while you're trying to, my goodness. Kind of a, holy sheesh.
That was awesome.
So if you hate, if you keep telling yourself I hate recruiting, I'm not good at it, and you go, okay, I love recruiting, I'm great at it. When you initially say those words out loud or you write them out, you're gonna feel a little weird, like I'm not so sure. Why? Because I don't have any references to support that belief. I've just annihilated the old references. So what do I need to do? Create some new ones. So I love recruiting. What's an example I can give myself that would support me loving recruiting? Well, I love the idea of having teammates on my team that enjoy this business as much as me, so that could be a possibility, right? That could be a possibility, right? I love the idea of like managing or leading people, so that could be like another possibility, right? And you just start going through like, what are some of the things that have happened or could happen, or what are some of the things about me that would support me loving recruiting or support me being great at recruiting? Well, you know, I'm a great recruiter. Well, you know, I think most people sort of like me. I don't think most people think that I'm like bad or negative or mean. I think most people sort of like me. That would support being a great recruiter, right? Don't you think great recruiters have good people skills and people tend to like them? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you just begin to create new little references. And why is that important? Let me sort of give you a cultural example that I've used before. So, if I have a belief that a certain group of people, we're going to call them Martians, are bad people, right? And I'm out Black Friday shopping yesterday, and I followed this lady. I'm waiting on this parking spot, and she pulls out, and because of the way she's pulling out, I can't get into the spot. And a Martian out of nowhere drives up and takes my spot. That's another reference for Martians are bad people. And then I watched the news last night, and I say, oh yeah.
The Martian did it.
Yeah, Martian was responsible for some sort of robbery or something. And my mind starts finding references about Martians that support my beliefs about them. Make sense? What?
Yes.
Confirmation bias, yes. Or what Tony Robbins would call like the reticular activator. Like, because of my beliefs, here's the things that I notice and hold on to.
You're looking for them.
Yes, but I realize that this belief about Martians doesn't serve me because, as it would so happen, my daughter is about to marry a Martian. And he's actually sort of a swell guy for a Martian, right? Then I get to know his Martian family, and they're sort of good people too, and they sort of share a lot of values and beliefs. And so I go through this process of going, is that true 100% of the time? And then I start building new beliefs about it. Once I build new beliefs about it, guess what happens yesterday? Well, I'm standing in line for Starbucks, and I go to get my Starbucks, and I get out my ATM, I go, oh no, somebody already paid for it. I go, well, who paid for me? Well, the Martian that was in line ahead of you. And now I notice, and I add that to my reference because I've changed my beliefs about Martians. Does that make sense?
Yes.
My point is this. By the way, I think we should all be pro-Martian. Okay, just to be on the record, I want to be clear about that. I'm very pro-Martian. Okay, but my point is this: when you create the new belief, I love recruiting, or I'm a great recruiter, I'm a great prospector, or I love learning about sales, or whatever it might be, when you begin to create these new reference points, they may feel like little teeny, little skinny, like little legs that are supporting this.
Right.
But what begins to happen is you'll begin to notice things about yourself and in your experiences that support this new belief. All of a sudden you prospect somebody and you get a name and number, you're like, man, I'm really good at this recruit. You don't focus on the 3 times that people said no or you didn't get a number. All of a sudden you get one, you're like, I really am good at this. And somebody says yes, and they'll come to the meeting. That's like evidence. It's like people are interested, even if they don't come or not. We start looking at the same experiences differently. Wayne Dyer, put this in your notes. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Change the way you look at Martians, and Martians change. Change the way you look at recruiting, and recruiting changes. Change the way you look at prospecting people, and prospecting changes. Change the way you look at helping people that you care about, your family and friends, and the way you look at helping family and friends changes. You are the great conductor of what's going on up here, right? Anybody old enough to remember the Police?
Yes.
Not
The band?
the band, yes, with Sting.
Yes.
I saw them in 1981, I think. I was a junior in high school. And on that tour, that album, what? Very good, Dean. On that tour, one of the big songs off of that album was The Ghost in the Machine.
Yes.
And the Ghost in the Machine is the conductor of our thoughts. It's the Wizard of Oz behind the brain, because the brain's just an organ. In addition to the organ, we have a mind, true or not true, right? So the mind directs the organ, directs the brain. So the conductor, the ghost in the machine, is the one directing what we're thinking about, how we're thinking about it. In psychology, they call it metacognition. Thinking about one's thoughts. Metacognition, thinking about one's thoughts. That's the conductor. That's the ghost in the machine. So we've got the opportunity, and here's what begins to happen when you give yourself just this is like a 15 or 20-minute exercise. Now, most of you won't do it. Because we have beliefs as well about us changing and us growing and doing things different than we're doing them right now. We've got self-worth issues and identity issues and self-confidence issues, and so we fight to defend things and to hang on to things even when they're not true, even when they don't support us. Okay? And so this is an important process to begin to understand about yourself and to begin to challenge these things, because here's what I can tell you. I can go this afternoon, have a baseball cap on backwards, be in jeans, not be wearing my Rolex, shorts, flip-flops, like be totally underdressed. And because of my beliefs about me and the way the world treats me and what my expectations are of the way people treat me and respond to me, I can recruit somebody who's blinged up in a Bentley. I know what I can do, and it's not conditioned on them looking at me. They don't know I'm a CEO. I'm not wearing a custom-made suit or shirt. I don't have a Rolex on. I don't have a big watch. None of those things matter. What matters is what's right here. Sometimes we can dress everything all up, and we still don't get the result that we want because we're dressing up the outside. Now, here's what I would suggest. The more that you dress up the outside, it does have a positive effect on the inside. But what I'm saying is the next level of that is you get to a point where you don't need the window dressing to be unbelievably confident, to be unbelievably certain, right? And to be so confident, certain that you don't have to defend who you are, the way that you see yourselves, and from a standpoint of influence, okay? So I want to challenge you to do this. I want to share with you, there was a great article, and it was, here's what this article was designed for. It was designed for all these people who are worried about having Thanksgiving dinner with family and friends who have different political beliefs. Yeah, and like people getting like triggered because like something comes up about politics or religion or sexuality or ethnicity or immigration or something like that. People getting triggered, like, which is just so stupid. Like, as a nation, let alone as a family, I think it starts within the family, we should be able to have discussions and disagreements without getting triggered, right?
Right.
What's that?
I says as long as there's not too much alcohol in something.
Yes. Unfortunately, it gets pretty crazy without the alcohol, but you add alcohol to the mix, you know, all bets are off usually. So, matter of fact, just to take this a step farther, like my daughter's 16. Does anybody know what goes on with teenage girls? The conversations, the cattiness. Everybody knows, like, even women who are adult, you know how bad, like, other women treat other women, right? As adults, it's not just a high school thing, right? Women are pretty mean. I don't mean that like, that sounds bad. Women, the way they attack other women is different the way other men attack men. Way different, right?
Very well put.
So, my daughter, we're constantly having conversations with her and telling her how to have conversations with other girls. And sometimes she'll be like, we'll be having a conversation and she'll read through a string of text and we'll go, okay, here's how to craft out what to say so that she says it in a way that isn't toxic, doesn't elevate the intensity or emotion, isn't mean and hurtful in response just because somebody was mean and hurtful, but also isn't naive and just like, oh yeah, I'm a punching bag, just say all kinds of crap about me, right? So we're constantly doing that. The reason I say that is, this article is great because it talks about people having like disagreements about politics and stupid stuff like that. But the genesis of it is the same here. You're going to have conversations with friends, family members, complete strangers about being an entrepreneur, about the business, about what WFG is, what WFG isn't, what we do, what we don't do, like all that sort of stuff. And the more that you can have these conversations in a way where it's not about you being right, but you influencing the person to think in a different way. And that's the key. And so I thought this was a fantastic article. I wanted to share it with you on the drop of this and then on the drop of what we do. So this is from, I guess, a debate coach or a former debate coach. Number one, call out your disagreements. Number one, call out your disagreements. Here's the strategy, 6 strategies, no matter what the topic, into developing mutual enriching experiences. Number one, call out disagreements. People can be hesitant to name a conflict for what it is. And being the one willing to do that is really powerful. Heated discussions tend to be the result of strongly held beliefs, right? So by acknowledging them, we are respecting the other person's opinions and being true to ourselves. But it's important to do this in a calm, non-finger pointing way, the author suggests. I think the thing you and I differ on, Bill, is this. Rather than, I think the thing you need to know, Bill, is this. I think the thing you and I differ on is this. So I tend to be more conservative in a number of areas, but not all of them. There's a bunch of social things I'm not as conservative as people I think would expect me to be. My father-in-law grew up in New Hampshire, and it is unbelievable. Like, he thinks as far left as the Democratic Party is going today, that they're not liberal enough. So that's a different side of the equation by a little bit, right? And I have a great deal of respect for him, but it's important, like, I enjoy having conversations with him because we can have a conversation about something we disagree on without our emotions getting raised, without our voices getting raised, without disrespecting each other, but actually trying to talk through some of the ideas and some of the concepts, some of the ideas, and see if, and anytime I have this conversation with him, I'm open to being wrong and him being right. And I think he sort of is too, out of respect for each other. It's not like I'm right, he's wrong, and I'm going to prove that he's wrong based on what I believe. Because if you're coming from it, I'm right and they're wrong, you're not going to influence somebody. It's like, how many of you have ever been in an argument with your spouse and won the argument? Only to realize that you just made them the loser and it's not all copacetic afterwards, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, who wants to be married to a loser? Right? I've said this before, one of the fundamental keys to building great relationships is learning how to talk about disagreements, not avoid talking about disagreements. If you constantly avoid talking about things you don't agree on, that doesn't make a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship. It's, How can we resolve conflict? How can we work through conflict together without making it personal, without labeling, without getting crazy? And it's our ego's need to defend, to justify, and make ourselves right. The ego always wants to keep us separated from everybody else. The ego always wants to find all the differences that you have with everybody else, and the ego always wants to judge why I'm superior to everybody in some way. I have more money, I have a better marriage, my wife's better looking, I'm skinnier, whatever it is. The ego's always looking for something to make itself feel better in comparison to everybody else, and in that way is alienating itself from everybody else. And you've got to suppress the ego and the need to be right and focus on the disagreement, right? I love my father-in-law no matter what his beliefs are about politics and stuff. That's a little bit easier. My wife and I many times have voted on opposite sides of the aisle. I still love her, right? The question is as you get farther away from this core family group, can you love and appreciate and respect other people just as much who differ with you in opinions that you're not required to love, that you're not living with, right? Can you love them too, right? This, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the red writing in the scripture, right, is even the Savior said, well, even like the sinners love their own friends and family, right? The tax collectors love their family. Like, what is that, right? The challenge is loving your quote-unquote enemy, loving the people you disagree with, loving people you don't share the same values with, loving people that you don't understand, right? So call out disagreements, number one. Number two, establish a common reality. Establish a common reality. Truth check. Establish a common reality. Truth check. What attitude do you usually have when you're heading into a disagreement? What attitude, what state are you in? What's your mindset when you head into a disagreement? You ever know that you're going to see somebody or talk to somebody and you have some sort of internal conflict with them, some sort of resentment, some sort of grudge, something that's bothering you, and you ever notice the way you feel in anticipation of seeing them or talking to them, and notice the way you feel when you're actually in their presence? You notice the way that makes you feel?
Yeah.
Be aware of that. If you're feeling a little bit crazy on the inside, you probably should let it go until you don't feel that way. If you can't control your emotions, how can you have discuss something that you disagree with them on when you're feeling that way? You can't. Yeah, but I need to set the record straight, or I need to defend myself, or I need to show them that they're wrong. Yeah, maybe, but maybe not at that time. If you're feeling, because you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Your heart gets going a little bit.
Yes.
You get a little bit short in breath, right? And you just, sometimes it's later today or tomorrow, and just the anticipation of it, just us thinking about it, gets us all worked up, right? Truth check. What attitude do you have usually when you're heading into a disagreement? Speaking for myself, this is the author, we go into arguments hoping we'll make the other person realize how wrong they've been, and thank goodness we've showed up to set them right. Doesn't that describe the way you're feeling going into most of these, right?
Yeah.
They should be thankful I'm about to set the record straight and correct them for their stupid thinking, right? Their stupid opinions, right? At the end of this, I'm going to prove she's wrong, and she's going to be glad I showed up to prove her wrong, right? But literally, that's our egos. That's part of our ego sort of dominating sort of what's going on here. But after years as a debater and then as a debate coach, you realize proving someone wrong is not a strategy. Proving someone wrong is not a strategy. That's just you talking at them. Proving someone wrong is not a strategy. Instead, she has learned the secret of persuaders who are at the top of their game. They find common ground with their opponents. As the author explained, there's very good evidence that shows when you confront people with a ton of, listen to this, I want you to listen to this really carefully. And first I want you to think, how does this apply to my WFG conversations? And then I want you to think how it may apply to other relationships that there is this kind of disagreement with. Listen to this. Because it's the opposite of what you think. That's why you need to listen carefully. there's very good evidence that shows when you confront people with a ton of information or a ton of facts that contradict their worldview, it actually causes them to hold on to their existing beliefs more strongly. If I just give them enough of the facts, then they'll see how wrong they are. No, it actually makes them believe what they're believing even more. But that's our most natural, it's the cortex, I think, the front part of your brain that thinks, if I just give them enough facts and they analyze it, obviously they'll see I'm right. People make decisions emotionally, and then they defend it logically. As a result, we try and put together arguments logically. And people don't make decisions there; they make them emotionally. We create presentations entirely the wrong way. So there's very good evidence that shows when you confront people with a ton of information or a ton of facts that is competing with their perspective or competing with their beliefs, it actually causes them to hold on to their existing beliefs even more tightly, which is not what you're intending or hoping for if you're trying to persuade them. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Be mindful of that with your children, perhaps, right? Instead, she suggests you establish what she calls a shared reality for you and the other person. Can I give you a business example of this?
Yes.
Yes. Yes or no?
Yes.
I've been successful at recruiting people from Primerica, like Jorge Cardenas, one of Salinas. I've got Jorge Cardenas and Jorge Salinas. He was at Primerica, he had a Life 663. He had a 26, he was a branch office manager. He ran his own independent office, didn't share it with other SMDs. He had 30 plus people showing up to meetings. He had been in Primerica 10 years. He had won their Hawaii trips. He was a successful guy, well indoctrinated into the Primerica belief system and all the subsystems that accompany that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So how did I recruit him? I did not overwhelm him with facts and information to prove him wrong. I never do when I'm speaking to somebody from Primerica. Why? What did I try to do? I tried to create a shared reality. And that's what I always do with somebody from Primerica. I try to create a shared reality first. Hey man, love what you and your company are doing for Middle America. Love the fact that you guys are creating free financial plans. Love the fact that you're committed to helping people get out of debt. Love the fact that you really are committed to protecting people using life insurance. Love the crusade of what you're doing and trying to help them save money for retirement, save money for their kids' college education, create emergency funds. Love the fact that you're part of a company that's entrepreneurial and believes in working as an entrepreneur and owning your own business and being in charge, being your own boss, not working for somebody else. I focus the conversation on all the things that we agree on. Why? To create a shared reality. Most people, here's what they normally want to do. Yeah, but you guys sell whole life. You guys sell cash value. Hey, you know what? Can we just talk about that in a minute? Because what I want to talk about first and foremost is all the things that we agree on, because I think we agree on more things than we disagree on. And so they always, because of their ego, because of their beliefs, and wanting to prove that I'm wrong, because they've been indoctrinated that cash value is trash value, right? That permanent life insurance is the Antichrist. You can read it in Revelations, right? That's what they're indoctrinated to believe, right? And so I'm one of his little archangels if I sell that kind of insurance, right? So they always want to go there, and that's the last place I want to go. Why? Because there's no shared reality there. There's only disagreement, conflict. I don't know them well enough to be able to persuade them. If I dump a bunch of information and facts on them, they're going to become more defensive and more steadfast in their beliefs. So I try and create as much shared reality as possible. What are all the things that we agree on? What are all the things that we agree on? We agree in helping families. We agree in debt is horrible, and we agree on ways to get out of debt. We agree on protecting families and the needs for insurance and the importance of insurance. We agree on keeping the cost of insurance as low as possible so that we can free up money for saving for the future. We agree on the importance of tax benefits and long-term savings vehicles, right? We agree on so much more than we disagree on. So once I create a shared reality, then there's enough commonality, there's enough rapport that we can now begin to talk about some of the things we don't agree on, as long as I talk about them in an agreeable way. I'm not attacking them. I'm not trying to prove them wrong. For example, here's one of the things one of the analogies I've used many, many times. I want to share it with you because I use it in a non-attacking way. And I'll say, Michelle, you know, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Because I've never worked at Primera before. I never got recruited by them, but obviously you've been there for a while. So you've gone to lots of meetings, I'm guessing there, is that right?
Yeah.
And have you gone to like some bigger events and bigger meetings, conventions and that sort of stuff? And so you've probably met and know a lot of different people within the company that work there, right?
Right.
Of all the people that you've met and you know that work there, do you know, are there a lot of them that you've met and known that have left our company or left other companies in the industry to go work at Primerica?
Not a lot.
What my most common answer is like no. Sometimes it's almost defiant, like no, none of your guys. Occasionally it's like, well, yeah, there's just one girl that I go, oh great. Do you know how long she was with us? Well, I think she was just with you guys a couple of months and then she came over. Okay. I go, okay, that's interesting. I don't know what it means because I've never worked there, but you know, just one of the things that I've noticed is here at our company, we have literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people here at our company that used to work at Primerica. Now, I don't know why they left to come here because I've never been at Primerica, but literally thousands have left there to come work here. And if you gave me half an hour, I could probably put you on the phone with a dozen real quick. If you gave me a week, I could probably introduce you maybe to as many as 100 in the week. But we have so many people that have come here, and so it's just interesting to me that we can't think of anybody that's left our company or left the industry to go to Primerica yet. We know a lot. Now I know the easy answer, and I don't know what the answer is, but if I was you, this would just be like a question that I would have. Question that possibly can destroy one of her little references, right? Just a question that I would have is, if I was you, I'm not confronting her, I'm not attacking her, I'm not disagreeing with her. I just have a question. I have a question, and if I was you, I would question like, why have so many people left Primerica once they've gotten licensed? Many of them successful, many of them making lots of money and having a lot of success at Primerica already. Come to WFG and leave all that success behind. Now the easy answer is, well, because they were just greedy and just wanted to make more money because we sell those trash value policies that you can make more money on. That's like the easy, convenient answer. But here's what I believe, and it doesn't matter what I believe, what's important is what you believe is, I believe they were probably all really, really good people when they were working with your company, with Primerica. I think they were good people that were really interested in helping people and making a difference. I don't think they were ever bad people. But for some reason, they saw something different over here that caused them to leave there and come here. I just wonder, like if I was in your shoes, I'd wonder what that was. And at this point, what I've done is knocked down a couple of reference points and made that belief just a little wobbly. It's not as strong, it's not as strongly supported. So oftentimes I've used this example, not in an attacking way, but just sort of being cute and curious. Like, it sort of reminds me, sort of a funny analogy, it sort of reminds me of like, every year, thousands of people risk their lives to flee Cuba for the United States. And I can't remember the last time I heard of a United States citizen drowning because they were leaving Miami trying to get to Cuba. It just doesn't happen. So when the migration is all one direction, it sort of makes you wonder, like, what is it about that new destination that causes everybody to want to get there and then bring their family there? I don't know what that is, but any idea what it could be?
I'm curious to find out.
First, I spent all this time creating a shared reality. Now I can ask questions with the intent of subtly destroying some of her reference points, which make her beliefs wobbly. Now we're open to having a conversation because she's not trying to defend her beliefs because I'm not overwhelming her with facts and information. I'm asking her questions. Like, I'll give you an example. So me and my father-in-law, a couple of weeks ago, we're having a conversation, and I said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, and I'm being very, very sincere about this because there's something I don't understand about this whole Russian collusion thing. And he watches all the right, like he knows a lot about this. And I said, I'm just curious. I said, if Trump really did collude with the Russians, like, how is that helping him? He's like, well, he said, Trump's business financially wasn't as strong before he took, and he was having troubles getting loans, so he said it may have been to get loans from like Russian banks over there. He said, yeah, I guess that could be true. I don't know. Like, I'm open to like his ideas because it's just confusing to me. I said, but I thought his business had moved away from development. He was much more into branding, just putting his name and his brand on stuff that already existed, less into development. He's like, well, yeah, that is true. I said, I'm not arguing that the Russians didn't interfere with our election. I think it's clear. I think anybody with common sense would say they did interfere. That on social media, they had these bots and all that sort of stuff. I said, but I've got a question. If it was to win the election, how did these Russian bots on social media, how did they affect the Electoral College? Because the way I understand it is the Electoral College is one who elects a president, not the popular vote. I could see how they'd influence the popular vote, and Hillary clearly won that, but how did these Russian bots on Facebook influence the Electoral College people? He's like, well, I'm not sure. I don't think that they would. I'm honestly just curious about this. I said, now you could say that he's colluding with Russia because they've got some information, because, you know, there's this conspiracy theory about, like, he was in a hotel room in Russia with these hookers that Obama, right, and did all this crazy stuff. I'm sure you've heard of that, right? I go, if that was the case and there was real evidence, you haven't heard it? Oh my God, that's been around for 2 years. So when Obama was president, he stayed at a very lavish suite in Russia. The presidents do that. It's normal, right? And so the story is that after that, Trump went to that same suite with hookers and did some very vile stuff in that suite in some way to defame Obama and his reputation. I said, and the Russians have evidence of that. I said, if they have evidence, you look at all the things that have leaked politically over the past 2 years, don't you think that would have leaked by now? You really think someone's just sitting on that? Yeah. And if he was financially motivated, it seems to me like everything I've read, whether it's a liberal piece or Republican, seems like his net worth is down significantly since he started running for office. It's not like it's made him a lot of money. So my point is this, is I'm open to whatever my father-in-law shares with me, and I'm just asking him questions. And because I'm truly like, I don't understand how he's benefiting from the collusion, or if it existed, like, how is he benefiting? And so help me to understand if he isn't. I'm just asking questions. I'm not trying to force facts on him and say, this isn't true and this couldn't be true. I'm just curious. And he's a much smarter guy than I am, and I didn't persuade him to think there was no collusion, and I actually believe that there was an influence by the Russians. But it's about creating shared reality and asking questions, not trying to dump facts and information on somebody. And it's way different in the kind of conversations that you can have with people when you're not. I'm not trying to prove him wrong. I'm trying to understand, like, why am I wrong? By asking great questions. So he didn't feel threatened by me, and he never felt like I was attacking him, because I'm just asking him questions like I'm trying to learn, sincerely. Because maybe I don't watch some of these shows that you watch, and maybe there's some facts and information that I'm not familiar with. Share them with me. And so that was a healthy dialogue for us to have. Look, we didn't persuade either one of us, but we were able to have a conversation about a very hotly debated topic in our country without either one of us raising a voice or getting agitated about each other. We went from that to dessert. I mean, it was just really that simple. So part of it is finding a common ground, right? Number 3, focus on the issue, not the person. That's what I was doing with my father-in-law. I was focused on the issue, not him being wrong for believing what he believes. Let's be honest. We all draw conclusions about each other based on our various identities. Be they millennial or baby boomer, working parent, stay-at-home parent, hybrid car owner, or SUV owner, and so on. In heated arguments, it's tempting to make sweeping personal generalizations, which is a recipe for a hot potato, right? Stay away from absolute statements like, liberals only care about X. People in the military just want X to happen. This takes a little bit of heat out of the conversation. Like, whether it's your spouse, it's a business colleague. Like, you ever see this with your spouse? You have a little minor disagreement with your spouse that you bring up, and then they bring up something unrelated.
Yeah.
Like defending themselves. Well,
Right.
yeah, but you did this. And then you bring up, and all of a sudden it's like you've got 12 topics on the table, completely unrelated, and you went from this little thing to now you're both heated and pissed at each other, right? It's like, isolate and compartmentalize and keep it about whatever the specific topic is, and don't generalize. It's one of the things, it sounds like it's easy to sort of, but the more self-aware you are, here's what you'll find more oftentimes, is it's much easier, we've got beliefs about stuff like Martians, and it's much easier for us to have global beliefs. Oh, here's where it shows up. This always happens. Oh, my guest didn't show up today. This always happens to me. Always is a sweeping generalization. Oh, they didn't show up. People in my market never want to show up. That's a sweeping generalization. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Always, never, everyone, all the time. These kinds of words become sweeping. These are the most dangerous kinds of beliefs to have. Because then we stop looking at individual situations, people, experiences, and ideas. We just throw them all under one gigantic tent, and with one big sweeping brushstroke, we knock them all out just like that. Those are the most dangerous, and we all have them. My wife and I had to work through some things because I'm a fanatic about what's called transformational language. And she would use transformational language, and she didn't mean it that way, but when she says, you always do this, or you never do that, it's like that becomes a really big spear, right? And it's like, you're right, I didn't do this yesterday like I said I was going, but to say I never do this takes it way out of context, and that creates a different spirit or energy in the disagreement. You never do this. I did it that day, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so this happens to all of us more frequently than we realize, that we make these sweeping generalizations about our spouses and family members, about our colleagues. Like, Deanne Charles never does anything around here. I can't even believe I waste my time with her. Is that true or not true? It's never, like, she doesn't have a guest today, so proves it. Nobody on her team is here today, proves it. She's one of the best I got. So like, but like, it's easy to just isolate on a thing and then make it this bigger thing, right?
Right.
Isabel Briones isn't here today. Yep, she always misses meetings. It's not true, but it's easy for us to, once again, it's the brain's way of short-circuiting, shortcutting, which saves energy and just makes it way easier on us, okay? So become more aware of yourself when you use those kinds of words, or you hear other people use what's called transformational language, because it transforms an idea, an event, an experience, or a person into a global situation. Always, never, everybody, all the time, those types of words, okay?
Yes.
Yes. Number 4, accept the possibility of being wrong. You read that right. If you go into a conflict indicating, listen to this, indicating that you're open to having your mind changed, you create the space for the other person to do the same. This tactic makes you more objective, less defensive, and ultimately more persuasive. Get yourself into the mindset of, this is a process of discovery to me as well. Isn't that what it sounded like when I reiterated the conversation with my father-in-law?
Yep.
Didn't it sound like that? Like I went into it with the possibility of being wrong.
Yep.
And asked questions trying to figure out, am I wrong? Is there more to this that I'm not aware of? Here's what's so important. I've said this a million times. To me, sales is all about the transference of emotion. You can't transfer an energy you're not feeling. If I want to transfer to Bill, hey, this policy is going to secure your retirement, I've got to feel secure and confident in that recommendation. I gotta feel that, because I'm going to transfer that. If I'm anxious, worried about his objections, concerned about maybe I didn't crunch the numbers hard enough, then I'm transferring to him worry and anxiety and doubt. So even if I have the right words, he's like, yeah, I get it all makes sense, just for some reason, I'm just not ready to move forward today. He can't even describe why, because it's a feeling. It's not a factor, right, or something up there. It's not information-based. You've got to transfer feelings, right? So if you go into a disagreement or a possibility, that could be prospecting, that could be recruiting, that could be on the phone, that could be in a one-on-one. You go into it indicating that you're open to having your mind changed. Maybe what does that mean? I'm going to prospect somebody or make a phone call and go into the possibility, like maybe this isn't the right opportunity for them. Maybe it's not the right time for them. Maybe they're not the right person. Maybe they really do have a good advisor. Maybe they really do have all their ducks in a row financially when I'm sitting down with them. Like, I'm open to that possibility. And then, if that is the case, then it's not like a no to me. It's not like a negative. It's not like a failure on my part. Now, I'm not going in, like, open to that as a possibility, and I literally think, okay, everybody's fine financially because they say so, and nobody needs more income because they say so, right? But I'm open to, through the exploration process, of that being a viable answer once we get there. Openness is a subtle trait to show, of course. But Dar says you can signal it in many ways, through your tone of voice and emotional warmth, and by asking, through your tone of voice, emotional warmth, and by asking questions respectfully and engaging with the other person's answers. What's more, this process can also soften you up. The suspicions you hold about people who espouse your beliefs, can start to evaporate, because you can imagine yourself stepping into their shoes. Let me share another one with you. When this whole thing about kneeling down in the NFL started, I was outraged. It's a disrespect. Like, I say this, I completely know 100% that minorities, and most specifically African Americans, have not been treated fairly by the police many times and by our justice system. I completely 100% accept. I don't debate that at all, and maybe some of you do. I don't. I have too many friends that are African American that have shared too many personal experiences, right? But I thought what they were doing, these NFL players, kneeling, was disrespectful to the country, to the men and women that have served our country, disrespectful to the flag. But then I started to have conversations with people, and I started to read other people's opinions on this, and I was open. And here's what I discovered. That's not their intention. Their intention isn't to disrespect the flag, right? Or people that have served. Their intention is to have a peaceful protest for the disparity there is in the justice system. That's their intention. So it's like if I have a disagreement with my wife and I say something and she hears it and thinks I mean one thing, I go, no, babe, that's not what I meant. Not even close to what I meant. Here's what I meant by this. She can't go, she does not have the right to go, that's not true, I know what you meant. Because that means she's like in my brain and knows what I thought better than what I think. She's not. Like, for us to have any kind of relationship, if she says that wasn't my intention, I have to take her at her word. Otherwise, there's no point of us ever trying to resolve this or work through this together. If I believe what you're telling me with your mouth is a lie, there's no possibility for us to reconcile.
Sometimes when you repeat things back to people, and then they hear it, they go, well, that's not what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yes. And so I may still go, I'm pretty sure she meant it that way, but if she's saying she didn't, I have to take her at her word. Right. And so here's what I saw over and over. Matter of fact, Colin Kaepernick, when he first started that, he went to a retired guy from the Marine Corps who said, here would be a good way to protest that would be respectful. So he actually went to somebody who served in the military to get the idea to protest that way. And then people are like, that's disrespectful to the military. Where that was sort of his source. And if interview after interview after interview says, that's not our intention, it's not to disrespect these people, it's to throw light on this situation. So I'm not saying you have to agree with me or disagree with me. It's just like, I felt one way pretty strongly, and then I went into it with the possibility of being wrong. I thought, you know what, I think I'm wrong on this. Number 5, use solid facts, but only if you have them. Objective truth is one of the things that is missing from many of our conversations to yourself. think to yourself, can I take on the role of the person who injects high quality objective facts in this conversation that really gets heated? People tend to generalize facts, and they hear something and they try and repeat it and they don't even have the facts right. Like she said earlier, be cautious about using facts. Try and build a bridge, a shared reality, a common space of things that we agree on before we... Like for me, with that NFL example, I already agreed that there was injustice there. I just didn't agree with how they were protesting. So that was our shared reality. And then when I understood more about how they protested, I go, okay, I don't disagree with that either now. But we started out with a shared reality. Number 6, this is the last thing. I've got an appointment I got to run to that I'm going to be late for it. Know when to exit. Super important. Politely end your exchange as soon as it's run its course. One sure sign it's time to stop is when you or the other person start repeating yourselves. Start making the same argument over and over. I heard you the first time and it didn't convince me. You think saying it again is going to convince me? You really think I'm that stupid like I didn't hear you the first time, right? So acknowledge, appreciate, and switch. Acknowledge the mutual goodwill and emotional work it took to have the conversation with people you disagree with, and then give back to the other person what they've given to you. You can do this by simply saying, hey, I still believe blank, but you really helped me understand your point of view. I still find it challenging to do or believe what you're advocating, but I appreciate what I've learned from the conversation. And here's why that's important in business. It's really hard to go back and re-recruit, re-prospect, resell somebody that you left with bad energy. Like, somebody was asking me the other day about following up with people. Oh, Scott's wife. And I said, if I'm on an appointment, and it's a second appointment, it leads to like a closing appointment, and she's like, well, how many times do you follow up with people? Isn't it a waste of your time? I'm like, this is just me. As long as I feel like we're making progress, it's never a waste of my time because this is what I do. I said, I've literally met with people 6, 7, 8 times before I closed them. Some people just aren't, for whatever, they don't trust me enough, they don't understand, whatever. Some people just aren't ready to decide that fast. Right. And so if it takes more time, as long as I feel like we're making progress, even if it's slow, but the trajectory is heading in the right direction. I've literally told clients this before. I've literally said, look, I'm willing to come back and continue to meet with you and continue to explain and help you understand these things that I think are really good for you. If at some point you don't think that it makes sense or it's a waste of time, please let me know. And I'll stop talking and I won't come back. I'm totally fine with it. But if you feel like we're making progress, and I feel like we're making progress, I have no problem coming back. It's not a waste of my time, and I don't want you to feel any pressure. I only want you to move forward and buy something if you feel like it's a good fit for you. And as long as we're moving towards that, and you feel like you're learning things and we're making progress, terrific. And if at any point you feel like you're not, I'm totally okay with that. Just let me know. So I've closed people on the 6th or 7th or 8th appointment that other people would have I'm not wasting my time with them. Maybe your time's too valuable. Mine wasn't because I genuinely want to help people, and I genuinely didn't think it was a waste of my time. It's called Convincer Strategies. I don't have time to get into that, but if somebody reminds me, I'll train on it another time how Convincer Strategies work and how they work differently with people. But how many of you feel like you learned something today that you can apply?
Yes, yes.
How many of you are committed to applying at least one idea sometime this weekend before Monday hits?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys showing up. I appreciate your participation. I appreciate your openness. And I hope that you use some ideas today to move yourself forward. Trajectory is super important in some area that's meaningful for you, for your family, for the people who are closest to you, or for your business, okay? Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.